So welcome to our relaxation class tonight. This is the third class this week that we've been talking about the skills of resiliency. And the first skill was to recognize that things are going to be difficult sometimes. It's not all unicorns and rainbows out there. So Cinderella, give it up and welcome to the real world. And then we talked about what yoga has to offer in terms of helping us experience the present moment and finding joy, even when things maybe aren't perfect, being grateful for what is going really well. Tonight is the third pillar of resiliency. And this is a really interesting, very simple, but interesting idea that maybe you've never thought of before, is whenever you have a choice in front of you, and we always have choices in front of us, but whenever you have a choice in front of you, to look at that choice and say, now, is this going to serve me, help me, or is this going to harm me? And you'd be surprised, that simple question, how it will help you to sort things out. For example, I had a friend today, someone that I've been not able to connect with for quite a while because she's just really, really busy. And she found my phone number because she needs a dog sitter. And so I was able to sit there and ask myself, because I've been thinking about this resiliency stuff a lot, is this going to harm me or is it going to help me? I really like her dog. So I'm going to take her dog for that afternoon because I like being with Chloe. She's a real great dog. But in asking that question, I was able to help myself set some clearer boundaries and feel permission to say no to that favor if it was going to harm me. So you might think now of some of the things that happened today or this week where you felt pressured to do something that maybe you really didn't want to do, that was, not necessary for you to do, but well, society says you should do it, or you don't want people to be mad at you, or whatever. But did it help you or harm you? So that's a really good question. So we're going to use that as kind of an inspiration for our restorative class, because it's easy to overlook restorative yoga. Not a lot happens. You're not going to get flat abs. You're not going to burn any calories. You're not going to be able to Instagram your poses and get lots of likes. This is what you do because it will help you. And if you ask that question to yourself, it's the end of the day. I want to start releasing my stress of the day so I can have a good restorative night's sleep, replenishing night's sleep. What will help me or harm me? And I'm telling you, taking some time to do some soft, relaxing yoga like restorative will do a world of good for you in a myriad of different ways. So tonight we're making the choice by coming to this class at 8 o'clock on a beautiful summer's evening to do something that helps us. And I'm hoping it inspires you for the rest of the week and weekend to continue to make those choices. What helps you rather than harms you? And even if it means it's an unpopular decision, if someone doesn't like it, too bad. What helps me and what harms me? So we're going to do stuff, I hope, that's very helpful tonight. So let me just readjust over to my mat. And if you haven't already, you might want to gather up any blankets you can find around in your house. I use these Mexican blankets. I invested in a whole stack of them because I really like restorative yoga. And if you have a bolster, a yoga bolster, that's great. I've been teaching yoga for 20 years and I only have one in the house because they're really, really expensive. So I'll show you what I do to kind of make up for not having a bolster. I use blankets and throw pillows, and I'll show you what I do. But we can get to all that in a few minutes. First thing I'm going to do is come to sit down. Make sure my tea's out of the way. Stretch my legs out in front of me. You can have a few folds of blanket underneath your seat. And I thought we would just take a little bit of time to wiggle and jiggle a bit. And then that way we might be more willing to be in stillness. So we'll start with the toes, wiggling the toes, and then pointing the toes away from you and flexing the ankles a couple times. Good. And then taking your fist in between your knees. This might help you to stabilize the parallel nature of your shin bones here. Roll the feet so the soles of the feet are facing each other, and then roll the feet so the soles of the feet are facing away from each other. So this is a little bit of ankle work here. No big pressure. And then rolling the ankles around in a circle in one direction and then in the other direction. Good. And then you can use your hands behind you for a bit of support. You can just be up on your fingertips if your wrists are a bit sore, and just bending straight in one knee a couple times. And we'll go to the other side. You might recognize this as we're moving through the simple joint freeing series. And then if you want to, you can take one leg, roll it outward so the knee's pointing out, sweep it out a little bit, roll the knee inward and sweep back just a couple times. Just working out a little kink or two in that hip. We'll go to the other side. And I'm not talking a lot about breath and that sort of thing, because these are just little movements to discharge any tension that we might have. Coming around to table pose, knowing there's always the option of using a chair in table pose at any time, and you've all seen that several times. And then when you're ready, we'll just hip drop to one side and hip drop to the other side. If it's uncomfortable for you to weight bear on your hands for any reason tonight, know that you can just stand, and let me just demonstrate what you could be doing instead of that, and just kind of doing a few hip circles, nice bent knees, and then you don't have to weight bear on your hands at all. Good. And then coming into table pose, I'm just going to switch my orientation so you can see this a little bit better. You're fine where you are. And then when you're ready, take one leg, stretch it back, and bring the knee in a couple times. Keep going with that. And again, if you don't care to weight bear tonight, note on your hands, know that you could be doing this sort of thing in order to still get the same hip movement without putting any pressure on your arms. Let's go to the other leg now. Wonderful. And then coming back to sit. So you could be sitting in a thunderbolt pose, the way I am, or sitting the way we were at the beginning with the legs stretched out. Either option is fine. And we're just moving through these little joint freeing movements quite quickly without a lot of worry. So gently moving through the fingers, making soft fists, and then stretching everything out, and rolling the wrists around in one direction and the other direction, and then kind of shaking out the arms a little bit, and then letting your hands rest on your shoulders and making some circles with your elbows, moving backwards with those circles, and taking your awareness to the upper back and just kind of letting this work out the upper back. And then we can just do a few shoulder motions. This is not the time to really push your flexibility. The purpose is just to discharge any stuck energy today. And then you can do surprised arms, and go on with your arms. Just a couple times, good. And then we can come back onto all fours. Remember, there's always the possibility of using the chair for table pose. And then come into your cat-cow. Maybe now's a good time to incorporate breath with the movement, inhaling as you extend the spine and exhaling as you round out the back. And again, if weight bearing on the hands isn't comfortable tonight, you can do this from a seated position, and you could be seated in a chair as well. One more breath. And then let's all join each other in a seated position. And if it's uncomfortable to be seated on the floor, even with props underneath your bottom, if you're not that comfortable sitting cross-legged on the floor, please take a chair seat. It's important for your spine to be at ease and upright and erect when we do these little spinal releases. Let's come into some half moon stretches. So inhale, stretch out one side of the body. Exhale, lean to the side. And just do that same side a couple times. And know that if holding your arm up like this is uncomfortable, drop your hand to your hip. This works just fine. And then let's switch to the other side. Good. And the last thing to do It's a little gentle rotation for the spine. I'm going to change the cross of my legs just to say that I've made everything nice and even. But if you're sitting in a chair or in another seated position, then of course you don't have to worry about doing that. Again, incorporating just a little emphasis on breath here. Inhale nice and tall. Exhale, contract the belly lightly before you twist. Maybe still have a pretty full belly from supper, so we don't want to twist too deeply. And no need to rush the movement. Good. Okay. So now we've kind of discharged any nervous energy as best as we can from our day. We can start coming into our first restorative posture. So if you have a bolster, you don't have to wrap up cushions with blankets, but let me show you what you can do if you don't have a fancy yoga bolster. So you can take a blanket and a cushion. You can wrap the cushion up with your blanket and it will create a pretty good resemblance of a bolster. So I'm taking my blanket, making it about the size of the cushion, so depending on how big your cushion is, and I'm squishing the cushion down as I roll it. And look what we got there. Got a pretty good representation of a bolster. And you might want to have 2 of those on your mat, something like that. So you might want to make 2 of those, or if you have 1 yoga bolster like I do, you can put the bolster on the bottom because it's kind of rectangular and will hold its firmness, and then put your homemade bolster on the top. So you've got a pretty big stack here, something like that. We're going to come into a supported child's pose. And if you think, I'll demonstrate where we're going with this. If you think this is going to be too hard on your knees or your hips to hold this, then I'll show an alternative in just a moment. So let's just get into this, and then we can help people that don't find this working for them. So I've got this lengthwise on my mat. I'm going to come to kneel in front of it and pull this bolster and these pillows really tight into my body as best as I can. I want to try to make as much contact with the bolsters and pillows and blankets and my belly as I can. And then once I've got myself cozied right in, I'm going to lie over this stack and let my arms rest. Now you have lots of choices. You can tuck your arms underneath. You can let your arms come back. Play around and see what seems to be comfortable for you. For me, this seems to work quite well. Okay, so while you're getting settled into that, what if that didn't work for you? What if you had a little bit of problem with knees and that sort of thing? So I would suggest that you get a hold of your chair, sit on your chair, open your legs, and then pull another chair up here, put your pillow on the chair, and hug your pillow like this. So I don't have a second chair in my office tonight, but maybe you can grab another kitchen chair or another folding chair and give yourself the illusion of doing a child's pose, but then you don't have all the pressure on the knees. I'm just going to come a little closer in case anybody has any questions. Okay, I think we're all settling in. We're all settling in pretty well. Okay, so make a little adjustment here and there. If you find that you're not quite comfortable. Now, things are never going to be perfect, but you can tuck the bolsters and pillows a little closer into your belly if possible. Adjust your arms to a slightly different angle if that's better. And then as you're settling into this particular pose, the supported child's pose, Just reiterate to yourself in your own mind, I've chosen to do this activity because it's helpful to me. I don't know about you, but sometimes when I go to do things that I know are healthy for me, like restorative yoga or taking my vitamins, there seems to be some resistance that comes up. There seems to be, the availability of a lot of distraction at that moment. So it's important for you to prioritize your well-being and be able to say to yourself, nope, this is helpful for me. And this is what I'm going to do right now. So is it helpful to me or is it harmful to me? And we make that choice, it could be almost every breath we take, we make that choice. And the people that have high degrees of resiliency are very good at making the choice to do things that are helpful rather than harmful. And we're making that choice right now. So as you settle into child's pose, reiterating in your own mind that we are undertaking this activity because it's helpful, because it nurtures you, because you need this, and you deserve this time. I get myself set up now. Everyone else is all settled. Get myself set up. Don't be afraid to fuss just a little bit and then find your stillness. So may I make a suggestion while you're in your supported child's pose? Becoming aware of the shape change of your body as you breathe. Becoming aware as you inhale that your belly makes a little bit deeper contact with the pillows and blankets and bolsters underneath you. And as you exhale, that contact softens. Tension kind of melts away there. And see if you can just kind of ride the wave of increasing tension and then letting go. And if you're not familiar with restorative yoga, just so you know, we do tend to hold the postures a little longer than in a standard yoga class. But you can come out and come back in or find something else that's more comfortable at any time. Kind of the most important tenet of restorative yoga is that it needs to suit what's helpful to you in this moment. There's no perfect way to do a restorative pose. There's no right way. It's the way that works today for you. So your pose might not look like mine, and that's exactly right. And as you hold your supported child's pose, riding the wave of your breath, notice perhaps things are slowing down a little bit in terms of your breathing, as well as in terms of the pace of your thoughts. And allowing yourself to land here. Seeing if you can stay attuned to all the different sensations as you hold your body here and allow your body to melt over the stack of pillows and blankets. Keep asking yourself, am I helping myself, or are I harming myself? You may want to turn your head the other way, just so that your neck gets an equal stretch. And if it's really uncomfortable to turn your head the other way, then I wouldn't force it. As I said, the big benefit of restorative yoga is you can really fine tune the pose to exactly what you need in this moment. And as we hold here for just a few more minutes, maybe draw your awareness to the back body. So we were looking at how the front body really increased pressure against the pillows as you breathed in. Now what's happening with the back body as you breathe in and you breathe out? So you may notice that gentle kind of rhythmic expansion and relaxation in the back ribs, around the shoulder blades, even the low back. This position often, for me, gives me a lot more to think about in the back of my body and can really start to address some of the tension that's been building there all day, and I didn't have time to deal with it. Let your body land and feel your breath arrive in your body. And this is just our first restorative pose, but notice if you're welcoming your breath or if there's some resistance, and often for me there is. It's hard to slow down. It's hard to do things that are helpful for ourselves. We're maybe not in the habit of it. So give yourself lots of time and space as you adjust to creating space to do helpful things for yourself. And if you would like to stay in your supported child's pose a bit longer, then listen to your instincts because they're bang dead on. But if you're feeling like you'd like to move to something else, then slowly push yourself up from the floor. Stay seated, but slowly push yourself up from the floor. And then we'll just take a moment to just absorb what's been happening. You know, I've been teaching yoga for a long time, and people know I teach yoga, and I talk to a lot of people at family gatherings or out and about, and they say, oh yeah, well, how's the yoga? And then they say, yeah, I'd love to take yoga to relax, but you know, I'm so busy at work. I've got the kids, you know, it's too hard to slow down. I'm busy till 10 o'clock at night. And I mean, I say, oh yeah, I hear you. But in my mind, I'm thinking, but can you afford not to do yoga? Can you afford not to take time to look after yourself? And so that's the question we're asking tonight as we build resiliency. Does this help me or harm me? So when these poor people are running around, you know, all these different errands, all these different committees they're on as they, you know, pamper their children with rides to everything, are they helping or are they harming themselves? Okay, so we can leave the stack of bolsters or pillows exactly as it is. I'm going to pull it a little closer to me. And you notice I'm sitting sideways now. And you can arrange your legs however is comfortable for you, but try to see if you can butt the bolsters and the pillows right up to your body. We're going to come into a rotated version of our child's pose. And for many people who don't find the regular child's pose accessible because of knee problems or hip problems, this sometimes works. You may have to prop up under one of these knees with an extra pillow or rolled towel or something, but play around and see if you can find a way to be comfortable here. Then turn to face the pillows. Place your hands on either side of the pillows and let yourself fold over the bolsters again. And you have lots of choices where you place the hands. Any arrangement of your arms that's comfortable is fine. And sometimes if you're really tight tonight, if you've got a lot going on, sometimes you have to come in and out a couple times and fuss about a little bit and just see, tuck a hand here or there and just see if you can find that spot that allows you to really relax. This is one of my personal favorites. And spoiler alert, this is the little routine that I do in my own bed in the middle of the night when I wake up and can't get back to sleep. So I use just a couple regular bed pillows and try to get myself relaxed when I'm anxious about not sleeping. Okay, so settling into this position, trying to get the pillows and the blankets tucked into your belly as much as you can. You see, this gentle pressure of the blankets and pillows against the belly stimulates the nerves that help you relax. You can further the work of moving towards the relaxation response by allowing yourself to welcome the breath as deep into the body as it will flow naturally. So we're not forcing the breath, we're not doing super deep breathing, we're just trying to welcome the breath. As we feel the earth welcome our body weight, we welcome the breath. And see if you can stay attuned to the sensations of just being in this gentle rotation of the spine and being very supported by pillows and blankets and the earth herself. Perhaps noticing breath by breath that it becomes a little bit more comfortable to welcome the support from the pillows and the blankets. And maybe it's becoming a little bit more familiar, a little bit more acceptable to take care of yourself, to do things that are helpful rather than depleting. So resting just for a few more minutes on this side. And know in restorative yoga, if the timing for me doesn't work, then you can always shift or move in a way that is more comfortable. The most important part of our work tonight is that we are nurturing ourselves, that we are listening to the body, being willing to work with the body to do things that are helpful. When you feel you may have spent enough time on this side, and you can stay here longer. As I said, this is one of my favorites, so I might stay here longer. My suggestion is to bring the hands to the floor beside the stack of blankets. Use a little push-up type movement to come up. And then lift your knees, and we'll just sit in a neutral position for a second. So I have my knees bent, feet on the floor. You can be using your hands to help you find balance here, or if the wrists are sore, no, you can come right up onto your fingertips. And then maybe just a couple gentle cat-cow type movements with your back. So inhale, lift the chest very gently. Exhale, round out the spine. And this is just a nice little counter move for the rotation that you've been in. But you don't want to push that. You don't want to really force this. Just a little gentle spinal release. Okay. And then we'll adjust to the other side. So excuse my back, but we'll roll over and come into the pose on the other side. Take your time. Remember, you'd like to have the stack of pillows and blankets tucked up as tight into your belly as you can. That stimulation of the body moving against the blankets helps the relaxation response. And notice your body landing. Notice the places that the body is supported by the earth. And where the pillows and blankets fill in the nooks and crannies. So you're cradled. So let your body land. And then once you feel your body supported and connected to the earth, welcome your breath into the body. Let the breath come and go freely with no manipulation, no hesitation. And once your breath is settled into a comfortable, soft rhythm, welcome your mind onto the breath. So take your hard-working friend, the brain, and invite it to rest on the gentle wave of the breath. And let that gentle wave of quiet breath lull the mind into a softer and quieter state. So let the body land. Welcome the breath, and then let the breath receive the mind. We'll just be on this side for a couple more minutes. And maybe now is a good time to attune to what it feels like in all layers of your experience when you make the decision to do something that's helpful for yourself. Is it starting to feel a little bit more comfortable and familiar? And then if you would like to have a little bit more time, of course, the pace of this class really is just a suggestion. Your body is really the real guidance system that we should be following. So attuning to the instincts you have, whether it's time to move or time to stay, and do what's helpful for you. Don't do things just because I suggest it. That might not be helpful. And then pushing up carefully. And we can once again come to that little counter pose that we did after the first side. So knees bent, feet on the floor, hands supporting you if that's helpful. You can also have the hands behind the thighs if that's helpful. And a little cat-cow, very gentle. This isn't the big cat-cow you might do in a regular yoga class when you want to really stretch your spine or strengthen your belly. This is just a little release for the spine. Okay, let's get into our next restorative pose. So I'm going to dismantle my homemade bolster. So you'll basically have 2 pillows and a blanket close by. I'm going to take a second blanket and lie it on the mat, just so that when I lie on my side now, there's no sharp bits that's going to poke into the floor. Then I'm going to pull the blanket down the mat just a little bit. I'm going to have a pillow for my head. And notice there's a gap here. This gap's for my shoulder. So I've got a pillow, a blanket. Then I'm going to take this other blanket and roll it up. And this is personal preference. You can try a couple different shapes. This is how I've rolled up mine. So it's a loose kind of bolster, not too tight. And I'm going to put it about here. And this bolster is going to try to be underneath the side ribs. So my shoulder's going to fit in here, and this will be underneath the bottom ribs. My hip bone will be on the bottom blanket or on the mat. If you're on a carpet, you don't have to have that bottom blanket probably. Then I'm going to use the second pillow, or in my case, the bolster, between my legs. So let me demonstrate how all this comes together. I want to have something between my knees and my ankles so that my 2 legs stay in line with my hip joints. This is going to keep my whole pelvis a lot happier. Then this loosely rolled bolster that I've created is going right underneath my rib cage. I've got a little divot here for my arm. So there's a little lower part for my arm, and then my head is supported. So I'm lying on my side. It's a very luxurious fetal position. And I have one more thing that I can do. If my shoulder is happy with it, I can take my arm up, and my chair is conveniently placed to let my arm rest on, but you could have it on your headboard if you're doing this in bed at night, or you could just have another pillow or let it go right down. This is a little extreme for my shoulder, so I'm going to have my arm like this. So take some time as you figure all this out. If this is new to you, you might say, wow, there's a lot going on. And I understand that. So you've got just this little lump underneath your bottom ribs. And this is giving you a slight kind of half moon stretch kind of thing happening through the spine. And if you do feel comfortable extending this top arm, you'll be getting a nice lengthening along the top of the body. And close your eyes and rest. And one thing that might be nice to do is to focus on the top side of your body and imagine that that lung, so for me it would be my right lung, is inflating with the breath and deflating with the exhale. So letting that top lung have just a little bit more of your attention, a little bit more movement. I'll just stay here for a minute or two more.
as you lengthen the side body on the top side of your body. And before we leave this position, again, just opening up your awareness to attune to all the layers of sensation you might be experiencing. And do the best you can to really arrive here so that you can fully process what it feels like to make decisions about activities that are helpful for you. Once we have a lived experience of doing nurturing and self-care activities, then we're more likely to repeat that experience. We're more likely to repeat that activity. We find out it feels really good. And if you feel ready to shift to the other side, take your time. Withdraw your limbs from their existence slowly, and then push up just like you would if you were coming up from Shavasana. So that sideways lift kind of thing. And then slowly turn around and come into the position on the other side. Take your time. You may need to have a little different orientation of one pillow on the second side. And there's some times that, one side of your body, you just can't lay on that side. Different things can be going on. So why not just stay on the first side then? Not worry about being perfectly even. Just take the rest where you can get it. And then settle in. Close your eyes if that feels restful. Think about whether you want to extend the top arm or not. And then feel the top side of your body. It's in this very gentle arc. It's not very much. It's not an extreme stretch. I've really moved away from restorative yoga as a way to do extreme stretches. It's very subtle and minimal, really. Minimalist restorative yoga nowadays. And then just like we did on the other side, you might consider, kind of really breathing into that top lung. And just the fact that you're taking your awareness and visualizing what the lung is doing in your body really enhances the lung's function. But above all, rest. Let your body land. And then welcome your breath into your body. And welcome your mind to ride the gentle wave of the breath. We'll just be here for a couple more minutes.
And then when you feel you might be ready to move, and it doesn't have to be right now, slowly withdraw your top arm, take your time, and push up from your sideways position, just like you would if you were coming up from Shavasana. And we have one more restorative pose. So for that, you'll need your homemade bolster, if you were using that earlier. So that's the blanket tightly wrapped around the pillow like that. Or if you have a yoga bolster, you can just have that handy. I'm going to move my blanket up so it's going to support the whole length of my spine now. And you may want a little support for your neck. I don't recommend using a full pillow under your head here if at all possible. But if you find that I have a really deeply curved neck. So sometimes I need a little roll of a washcloth or a hand towel just to kiss the back of my neck as I lie down. But we'll do a little stretch before we get into our final restorative posture. So just have your bolster ready to go here. I'm going to lie down on the blanket that was supporting my side a minute ago. Now it's supporting the length of my back. And when you're ready, we'll just take one knee, bring it gently in towards the body, hold behind the thigh. And if your hands don't interlace or meet easily, you can use a towel between your hands or a yoga strap or anything to make that connection. And then let the other leg stretch out on the floor. That's all there is to it. Just a couple nice full breaths here if possible. Notice how long and full you can make your breaths. And then we can release this foot to the floor. Bring the other knee in and let that first leg stretch out. So doing the other side. Take about 3 or 4 of the deepest, fullest breaths that are available to you right now. Notice how long and deep and smooth your breath is compared to when you're running around during the day, doing all kinds of things that might not be specifically helpful for you. And then we can let that foot come to the floor, bend the knees. Just take a moment. And I'm going to get set up for my last pose. So whatever you're using for your bolster, bring it closer to you. So the edge of the bolster is almost touching your buttocks here. Step your feet up onto the bolster and let your knees come apart from each other. So I want to make sure that the bolster is supporting your legs and there's no sense of stretch or being out of your comfort zone here. Now, if it turns out finding your legs in this position isn't really that comfortable or you feel overstretched in the groins, we definitely don't want that. We definitely don't
want any sensation at the knees, you might need a little extra bolstering here, something like that, to make sure that you come back from the end of your range of motion. So if you're trying to get your legs all the way to the ground and get a good stretch, that's not our gig tonight at all. So especially to my flexible friends, come back from the end of your range of motion, support yourself with more pillows and blankets, and we'll rest in our nice reclining cobbler's pose. So you might be inserting that little rolled towel to support the curve of your neck. You may absolutely have to have a pillow underneath your head, and then of course you can do that, but go minimalist, as little as possible. And then let your body land. Let the weight of your body sink to the earth. Be willing to receive the embrace of the earth. Feel the solidity, the trustworthiness of the earth beneath you. And know that it is safe now. It's desirable now. It's even pleasurable to let the weight of your body sink to the earth. So let your body land. Once your body has landed, welcome your breath. So we're not directing the breath or forcing the breath. We're simply welcoming the breath in a natural and fluid way. So however your body wants to breathe right now, that's the perfect way for it to breathe. Notice the subtle shape changes as you inhale and exhale. And let your awareness ride the swells and dips of your breath. And when you become a little bit more comfortable with just observing the breath, letting the breath nurture you, invite the mind to rest on the breath. Sometimes I visualize my good friend, the brain, just floating on a cloud. And the cloud is gently oscillating with the gentle breezes of the breath, almost like a rocking chair motion. The mind is cradled and coddled and supported by the breath. The mind is welcomed by the breath. And the mind can soften and ride safely and pleasurably in the oscillations of the breath. Let's take a couple more minutes here.
And if you would like to spend a little bit more time in your reclined cobbler's pose tonight, preparing for a really rejuvenating night's sleep, then make the choice that's most helpful for you. But if you feel you've had adequate time to recharge your batteries and discharge tension of the day, then you could begin to deepen your breath. And make a few exploratory movements with the periphery of your body. No need to rush. And then gently lift one knee into your chest and the other knee up into your chest and give yourself a little hug. Nothing extreme. Little movement here and there maybe. Roll over to your side. Rest. Join me in a seated position whenever you're ready. If you want to stay in your relaxed pose, that's fine too. And then let's weave together all that we've done and worked on tonight and all the classes this week about resiliency by sharing the sacred sound of Om. Inhaling. Namaste. So hang on, I want to be able to hear everybody.